If you're out there and if you're listening to this and somebody comes to you and talks to you in your career about deferred comp or how are you doing with your finances, please listen to them.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Blah, Blah, Blah Something Wellness podcast. We are diving even deeper into money mindset and how your relationship with your finances and your thoughts around money, how that's going for you. We've had some really awesome conversations so far, and I'm excited to get into it today. We have returning Greg Nottingham. If you will please introduce yourself yet again, and then we will go around and introduce everybody else.
Thank you, Tami. Good morning. Thank you for letting me be here. And my name is Greg Nottingham. I'm a retired sergeant from a local sheriff's office here in the Valley and in Phoenix. I am the chief of staff here at Law Enforcement Coaching and master coach. And thanks for letting me be on.
Awesome. Todd, you're returning. It's a familiar face. Welcome back. Will you please give your introduction?
Hey, I'm Todd Stockberger from Cherry Valley, Illinois Police Department, police chief here for just a couple of years now. In my former life, a chief elsewhere. Excited to be back. I appreciate the invitation and just look forward to having a really good conversation. So
Awesome.
see what I can learn from the group.
And Mr. Bloomer, we're going to call you Bloomer as we were talking off camera because we got lots of mics around, and so you welcome. Thank you for being here. Will you please introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. I go by Bloomer just because there is so many Michaels, and I've always had my name on my shirt, except for on this job. So I spent 20 years as a police officer. I'm also a combat veteran, so I got to spend some time in Iraq. And throughout my career, I worked gangs, narcotics, SWAT, and then spent most of my time in K-9. So I ran a dog. Somewhere towards the end of my career, I realized as much as I loved this job, it was not sustainable. My mental and physical health would be affected more than I would appreciate. So I, oddly enough, got into finance, became a fiduciary. Now I'm a partner at an investment firm, and our office is based in Mesa.
Awesome. So normally I do a disclaimer on these that we are not financial advisors. So, we're just talking from experience, but you actually have some clout there that you can give some legit financial advice.
Yeah, I am licensed. I am a fiduciary, so I can give advice, correct.
Oh, okay, awesome. So you guys listen to him. So awesome. As we get into this topic, there's different facets to money, and I want to kind of start at the baseline for you guys, which what we've been doing at the beginning of your law enforcement careers. What was your mindset around your finances, and what did you get good advice? Did you get any advice? Or what did you kind of wish you would have known? And basically my long way of asking, what's your guidance for the young generation right now that they need to actually tune in to, even though retirement's way off in the future, they think, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I'll go first, Tami, start now. That's the best advice I could give you is start now. Find your bloomers out there. If you're here in the Valley, make an appointment with them and sit down and discuss your finances. I think I said in the last episode when I started at the academy, I think I was making $8 or $9 an hour. And fortunately, after 31 years, it went up substantially. But still, you're not in this job to get rich, but you can sustain a financial lifestyle if you prepare. And I didn't prepare, and we've struggled with money all the way back to my grandparents, and my grandparents were okay, but they didn't share that with all of their kids, and my parents didn't share that with me. And when I started the academy, nobody shared it with me. Nobody said, get into deferred comp. Nobody said to, save money. Nobody talked about investments. and making $8 or $9 an hour, you're living paycheck to paycheck anyway. So investments were the furthest thing from my mind. And even as my income increased little bits at a time, I had, I have to have all my money. I can't afford to put it in an investment. I have to pay bills. So you can't afford it. You need to start now. And if you blink, your 20 years is going to be up. So it's going to come by fast. And my 31 years was up in the blink of an eye. So start now. Prepare now for your financial future during your job and then when you retire.
Awesome. Thank you. What about you guys?
Yeah, well said, Greg. I am the same. I want to say nobody talked to me, but maybe they did, and I just didn't listen. So I can't remember, but the first time I remember having that conversation, I actually spent 10 years with one agency and then I lateraled to another. And the first thing a sergeant did when I get there was said, hey, how does your deferred comp look in retirement? And I really hadn't stopped to think about it. And I was 10 years in already. I just it was like Greg said, it was fast. And I was like, man. And then she proceeded to bug me every time I saw her about getting things set up, and even shared some stories of officers she knew that were greatly affected by it. And so that kind of sat with me. So then I got a little more intentional about what I did. And so, what I would say is be intentional right when you get started. And even though retirement's so far away, I have lots of guys that say, oh, retirement's so far away, I'll worry about it. I'm like, this is when we should talk, right? Like getting you started now. I can't do a whole lot if you're year 25 and you want to leave if you haven't prepared. We can help, but I can't do a lot of planning. Whereas if you're year 1 or 2 and I can get you pointed in the right direction, you can retire making the same amount of money you are while you're working if we plan that correctly. So there's no magic to retirement planning or investments. And if anyone talks to you about something that's going to double your money in a couple years, walk away, because it's time and money. And that's how we create a long-term standing plan, is time and money. And so maybe that starts out as really little because that's what we can do. But you tend to do, if you're not intentional, we have lifestyle inflation. So as our income goes up, so does our lifestyle. And so does the vehicles we drive, and so do the houses we live in. But if we're very intentional about saving for retirement, then that allows us to keep putting that away, and we really don't notice it's gone. And I use some software and stuff that kind of help guys see that projection. It kind of registers a little better when they can see this big number at the end. So I would say be intentional. And even if you don't talk to someone, you just know ChatGPT and Google are really great resources. How much should I save for retirement? And put that away in your 457. And every year that I got a raise, I wish I would have, if I got a 4% raise, I wished I would have put 2% in my 457 and 2% in my pocket to deal with inflation. But that's one thing that I would say is just open that 457, get it started, and understand the pension that we work and live in, because that can help you retire better too.
Well, and you said something really important too. So you said see the number at the end. And when you start talking numbers, some people are very mathematical and they can see that. A lot of people start going back into school being like, what? 2 + 2 lost me. So having the visual, from my experience, a lot of cops are very, very visual. Spell it out, put it up there. And so if they can actually see visually that if you do this and these numbers add up, here's the visual number that you're going to get just as your bottom line, and you can add to that, I think that would be a huge, especially when they're young. We have, wherever you're at in your career, you should be financially planning. Everywhere, whether you're retired or not, finances are always a thing. But talking to the young generation. And Todd, I know I want to get you in on this too, but before we do that, you guys, everybody mentions deferred comp, but is that really explained to the young generation coming in? Do they just hear it? They don't even know. So can you guys just kind of explain what deferred comp even is?
Yeah, I'll take that one. It's kind of my area of expertise. And I made a mistake early on in teaching. The first thing I knew when I got into helping police officers was I wanted to learn all about the pension in 457. But what happened was I got pretty versed in it. And one of my first couple classes I was teaching, about halfway through, a kid raised his hand and said, "What's deferred comp?" And I was like, "Oh, I failed," because I just assumed, based on my knowledge of in depth, that he knew what that was. And I realized, like, I need to start at square one. So deferred comp is an option that we have outside of the pension, right? And for some agencies here in the Valley, it's actually still called PSPRS 457, but it has nothing to do with the pension. It's totally separate. You don't have to put into it. Think of it like a 401k. A lot of people are familiar with that. So we can put into the deferred comp. We don't have to. We have to put into the pension. Depending on the tier you're in, you're required. You don't have a choice. It comes out of your paycheck. With deferred comp, we get to decide what we want to put in there, and it's invested in the market. And there are some choices in there that we, get to look at, but inside of the market, it has compounding interest. And we don't get a match. If you look at most companies, your match is happening in the pension. You do get a match in Arizona in the pension. In the deferred comp, we don't get a match, but we have the availability to put away tax deferred money. And inside of there, we can choose between a pre-tax or a Roth option, right? And that's a whole nother discussion on kind of what those are. Maybe we'll have time to talk, because I think it is a valuable discussion. So.
Well, and thank you. So that also reiterates something that I've said in a previous podcast where I was talking to the instructors, that when you're teaching, you spend so much time on your curriculum and you're going in and talking about all these things. You have to make sure you know where your audience is at. We're throwing around the term deferred comp thinking that they know what we're talking about. And just like you said right in the beginning, you've already lost your audience because they on a simple thing. So don't overlook when you're instructing whatever that topic is, break it down even simpler than you think you need to, so that way everybody's keeping up with you. So thank you for that. Todd, I'll let you talk now.
So unfortunately, everything that's been said, it really resonates with me, right? So my first employer many years ago, either they told me and I didn't pay attention, or they didn't tell me. One thing we have in Illinois, the Illinois Municipal Retirement Fund, IMRF, a person can invest separately up to 10% of their reportable earnings, which is after tax, up to 10% of your paycheck every 2 weeks. And the IMRF, they pay you a guaranteed 7.25% on that, on those earnings. So I missed the boat on that 30 plus years ago. I started very late, but I don't think the knowledge base was there, or if it was, I don't think the municipality, they spent enough time saying, hey, do you really realize what you're not doing here? Goes part and parcel with what was said, at least by Greg, start now, start early. And before you know it, 20 years is gone, and kind of missed the boat on the power of compounding. And Tami, like you said, I totally agree. Seeing it, I'm a visual person too. Seeing it in front of me, if I start here, this is how I can cross the finish line. And Bloomer probably has those charts that says, listen, if you start tucking this much money away early on, this is where you can end up 20, 30 years from now. And lastly, I don't think a young guy or gal, I don't think they see that far into the future always, that they might think, I'm not going to make it to retirement. I can't afford this. And I'd argue it's the opposite. They can't afford not to, especially this day and age.
Yeah. And echoing that too, we've talked about this in previous episodes on finances too, that wellness, because that's what we do. We're all about wellness. Finances are wellness. One of the biggest stressors for people are money issues. That's one of the biggest reasons couples have fights and issues, because when you get financially stressed, everything goes out. And then within law enforcement, if you're just stressed about money and now you're just staying in the profession for a paycheck, that's going to create all sorts of it's going to wreak havoc in other areas of your life. So it's really important to be having these conversations. And I like that we have the financial planner where we really went into kind of the abundance mindset, how we're thinking about everything. And now we can actually put some like real rooted action steps to that. So what would your guys' advice be wherever somebody's at in their career right now, this week? What could they start doing to save for the future immediately? What are easy things that they can do?
Well, I'll jump in here with that one. And my easy thing would be deferred comp. Don't say that you can't afford to put in deferred comp. Don't say that you can't afford to up your deferred comp. If you get a bump in salary, up your deferred comp. You're ultimately not going to miss that money that goes into deferred comp, and it's going to be working for you even if you're 10 years now. And something that Bloomer said, and Todd probably even mentioned it too, is I think they may have brought it up in the academy in 1985. I don't remember, and if they did, I didn't listen. And then I may have heard it again, maybe 10 years in, and people started talking about deferred comp. And by then I was making a little bit more money, but still money strapped. And so it's like, yeah, I'm not giving you my money. I can't afford to give you my money, and not thinking about the future and not thinking about retirement. They're just like, hey, put into deferred comp. And I think when I finally got smart enough to start putting into deferred comp, it was only a couple of bucks, relatively speaking. It was the minimum. And they would always say, no, put in more, put in more. If you get a raise, put in more, put in more. And that's the easy thing I can tell you right now is open a deferred comp if you haven't already. And if you are paying a little bit into it, bump it up. It's going to help you in the future. And you're going to sit there in 20 or 30 years from now, kicking yourself like I am and saying, why didn't I put more into deferred comp? I should have taken that more seriously. Listen to deferred comp. That's a good place to start. Listen to the people that are telling you that. That's a really good and easy place to start.
To go along with that, Greg, totally agree. The deferred comp start somewhere, start now. How about to help offset some of that is this might not be popular, but if you take a pass on that fancy latte or coffee a few times a week, and look at yourself in 30 days, you did that for a month, right? So how much money can I have if I don't have the $6? I'm not going to name a specific organization because I'm just saying there's some awfully expensive coffees out there. I'm guilty of doing it. So I'm not casting a stone in a glass house, but just look and see and put that money in a drawer, take a pass, invest it in a Keurig and some fancy creamer. And can I save a couple $100 a month for that deferred comp?
Yeah.
Yeah, go.
Sorry. So I like both those. And what I'm going to do is tie them both into how I like to start guys out. And in order to know how much I need to not spend or how much I need to save, I need to know how much I make. And so what I would say is take the time. A ton of people I sit down with, I come up to have a sustainable plan. I need to know incoming and outgoing. And almost no one knows when I say, what is your monthly budget? They're like, oof. Like, what do we spend annually? They're like, ah. And so we do it real fast, not detailed, just to make it clear. I don't operate in the budgeting space, but it goes hand in hand with investing. In order to tell you, I could tell you, hey, I'd like you to get to 10% to put into your deferred comp, 15%. But if you don't know what you make, we can't come up with that. So I do right away. The first thing I would do is like come up with your monthly budget, know where all your money is. Now we can say, holy smokes, I spend $100 a month on my coffees. Dang it. Like, oh man. And then you start to say, okay, because I am of the mindset being a police officer, I've lost several friends in the police world. We might not be here tomorrow. So I don't want you to live like you're going to die tomorrow, but maybe if I'm spending $100, I still do spend $50 on my coffee, but I take the other 50 and I put it into my deferred comp because we do want if we just save and we don't spend, sometimes that is not a sustainable plan because you have after a while you're like, forget this sucks. I need that. So I totally love what Todd is saying is like look at that spending and maybe have a coffee a week, right? And then I hit that, but I get to save the rest. And so know what you're spending. That's what I'd say. Come up with a budget, know what you're spending, and decide then what you're going to save.
Well, that's a good point of you want to be smart with saving, but you don't want to be hoarding. And I know that there's departments that they have millions of dollars in funding and they're saving it for a rainy day, and especially in the wellness space, and their wellness people are sitting there. The command will not let them touch that money because they're saving it for a rainy day, and wellness teams are like, it's pouring. Like, how much farther do we need to get into the hole before we can have a couple dollars of this money? So being, money mindset, knowing, hey, I have this money over here and I'm not going to put all of my eggs in this basket waiting for it. One of the things that my dad did I've shared the story, but for whoever's listening, so when I was 11 years old, my dad was diagnosed with stage 4 prostate cancer and given 6 months to live, best case scenario. And fortunately, he had the mindset that he did not take that as his reality. He fought and he lived for 7 years in complete remission with a 0 PSA count. And during that time, because he had gotten his death sentence and he was what he would always say is, I'm living on borrowed time. Now, saving for the future was no longer that important. He wanted to live for the moment. So this created really cool experiences in my life and also really frustrating experiences because he did not set my mom up. Well, he set my mom up, didn't set me up that great. There was no trust fund, there was no savings account, there was no college fund. We spent it because he wanted to live life with me while he could. So we took trips, we took road trips and boat trips, and we went places and we did things and we had experiences and core memories. And those for me are that much more valuable. After he passed and I was an adult and I was like, I have no money, I was mad at him for a while, being like, why didn't you set me up anything? I'm just out here all willy-nilly with no dollars, right? So just having the awareness of the balance, you want to have those memories. I wouldn't trade, honestly, I wouldn't trade all the money in the world for the experiences that I had, but just going in mindfully, setting yourself up. Now, my mom was set up. So my dad was a retired Air Force, retired law enforcement. He got his Social Security, all of his benefits, and because they were married, he made sure that she was fully taken care of. He's been gone for almost 25 years. She's still fully taken care of. So it's really important not only to invest in deferred comp and all of the different pensions and all the things, getting through your career. I'm going on another little tangent, but if you're sitting at like the 16 to 18 year mark, we're watching a lot of people leave. They can't make it that last little stretch and they lose all of it. And so what I'm going to ask the audience, if you're sitting there and you're thinking about leaving early, you have 2 to 5 more years and you don't think you can do it, before you cash in all your cards and all your chips, please go talk to a mental health professional of any kind or a coach or a financial advisor so that if you do leave, you're not throwing all of that savings and work away. Just my extra little thing. Sorry, I went on a big tangent on that one.
No, so for Bloomer, with your experience and expertise, could you weigh in just a little bit on what Tami said? So how do you strike that balance with how much is too much to spend? And I know we want to save as much as we can, but where's that balance? What do you tell your people, your clients? Save it, but you also want them to enjoy life. And I know that's individualistic, each person has their own, but really like to hear what you have to say on that.
Yeah, great question, Todd. So you're right in that everybody's different because different people have different spending. So a common question that kind of goes hand in hand with that is like, hey, Bloomer, how much should we be saving? Right? Well, that really depends on your spending. And so what we want to do again is look at what you're spending and then come up with a sustainable plan. And it is a long-term plan. So how we determine that is I use some software, so it makes it a little easier so I don't have to do math. But we come up with some projections based on their spending. And if you're spending a lot, then the answer is we need to save a lot. But if you're spending a little, right? And those are just very generic. But when we look at that, we can kind of see if this plan is sustainable. And the cool thing about the software I use is it gives us like a floor or a base of spending and then a top end spending. So then we can see what that does. And each person is very unique and it depends on the needs, of that person. But it's funny, the psychology of it, a lot of my really good savers, it's a conversation about spending all of a sudden and they don't know how to do it, right? Because not everyone, some people have got with the planner, they have prepared correctly. And now it's really about how do we spend this money and create experiences because I can pass away with 10 million bucks, or I can have a ton of experiences with my family while I'm alive. But in order to have any of that, we need to have a plan in place, right? And that plan, sometimes it's just doing this, having this conversation where we're talking about it. And then they realize, holy smokes, I'm spending a lot of money on extra things that I don't need. And then we develop a plan to help prepare, and how much we spend comes into that.
Well, and also having the awareness nowadays, this drives me nuts. You can't just buy anything anymore. Everything followed the gym membership platform, everything's a freaking membership. And it's for just that small dollar amount that it's not enough for you to worry about, oh, it's only $8, it's only this much. And like all the, you know what, all of the TV platforms, Hulu and Netflix, like stop it. They continue every couple months. Oh, little tiny 30-cent increase, increase, increase. We're up. I started at like $7 a month for Netflix. It's at like 13 now. That makes a difference, but it's so small and you use it just enough. So being mindful, especially running the business and with AI and all of these different programs that can help you expedite your process, they're great, but they add up. I know I honestly have to go back and look at what we're spending right now because I keep signing up for different things because I'm like, oh, this is great. I want to try it. And you can either do the month or the year. I probably have like 40 memberships to different things that are when I get the visual of it, I'm going to be coming to Bloomer and be like, oh shit, we need to dial that one back. So just being mindful, like if you have that Netflix, the Hulu account, all of the different things, and you're adding in coffee, for those that still smoke for whatever, if you're still smoking, I don't know why. But adding that up too. I work with, in my hypno practice, I work with helping people quit smoking. And the way that I would charge them for that, I didn't have a set rate. I would ask them to go figure out how much they spend every month on cigarettes and then times that by how much they're investing in the year. And then I would charge them a percentage of what they're doing for the year. And it adds up thousands of dollars. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah, I'll jump in there because that made me think of something. So, in the world of investing, we have offensive and defensive, right? And so, sometimes what that involves, and almost all the cities we work for provide life insurance, but this is something that a lot of my guys don't think about. But most of us should have a very inexpensive term policy outside of our law enforcement. And it's not something that we learn about, but it's something that I kind of got hit hard with where I didn't talk to my public safety guys about life insurance because why would I? They have life insurance through the PD, but I had a client who had a terminal illness while he was working. And the PD did really good. They pushed him out really far and let him work from home, even far, far from his home to live in a little bit quieter place with his wife. And eventually they said, okay, we need to medically retire you. And they did. And he medically retired and he had his pension, but he lost his life insurance. And then a few months later, he passed. So I couldn't get him life insurance because he had a terminal illness. So as you talk to a planner, include the conversation about life insurance because even if I start saving every penny I have today and in the next year or 2 or 5, I'm not going to have a sustainable plan. So I'm going to teach you how to have a sustainable plan, but that's going to be far out. In the short term, think about some defensive investing, like possibly having a little bit of life insurance to cover your kids and your spouse. Because the worst thing that can happen is that you pass away and they're grieving from that, but then they're also going to have to deal with a financial hardship, which is even harder. And I've been there with families and it is hard. So that's something, as you talked about that, I thought, it's something we don't get education or talk to, but I kind of had a hard lesson on why we need to have that even in our public safety jobs with the pension.
Well, and death, especially with a close family member, whether it was planned or sporadic, whatever the case is, you're not going to be in a clear mind. You're barely processing information at all. And so to be able, it's really easy for people to get taken advantage of in those situations. I know when we lost my dad, my mom absolutely got spun on a couple different things because unfortunately, especially when it comes to money, there are predators and they feed off of that vulnerability. And then you get yourself caught into some bad investments or bad advice, whatnot. So it's awkward and uncomfortable to have the conversation around death. None of us want to have that conversation, especially with our loved ones, but it is important to sit down and what I would say is plan for it. Say, hey, we're going to sit down, we're going to have a heavy day. We're going to talk about the realities and create a plan. And then also you plan this out ahead of time. You don't do it in the moment. You know you're going to have these conversations and you've already planned a really light-hearted, fun activity after. You're going to go to a comedy show. You're going to go to an amusement park. You're going to go out with your kids to the park. You're going to do something to bring yourself back up out of those emotions and get yourself back into a happy space. It's very important to do that. Have you guys ever had those conversations?
Well, I have them all the time, and that's great advice. I'm going to start incorporating that into my planning because the other part of that is we need to have a will and trust in place. And believe it or not, the majority of my police officers do not have a will and trust. We have one of the most dangerous jobs, but we lack the planning of that part of life. And maybe we live long, healthy lives. We still need a will and trust. And so, but I kind of warn them, just like you. I say, hey, you're going to have some heavy conversations. We're going to have them once, and then we won't have to have them again. But we're going to talk about, who gets the kids. This has been a kind of an awkward conversation when I brought that up, and then husband and wife almost simultaneously say, my mom, and I'm like, all right, well, you guys can work that out later, but just that's what I'm talking about. We need to figure out what's going to happen. And that's a great idea to have them talk about these hard things when I send them to my estate planner and then say, but I want you to plan the day you make that appointment. I want you to plan an activity afterwards. I hadn't thought about that. So that's really great advice.
Well, and I'll call myself out on this and give Bloomer a shout out at the same time. We didn't have any of that stuff in place, and we actually sat down, my wife and I, and had a meeting with Bloomer a couple of days ago, and we've finally gotten all that stuff in process now, thanks to him, and he set out a plan. And yeah, when he puts up on the board your life expectancy and thinking, wow, that's not that far away. So yeah, it is kind of it does kind of catch off guard, and you don't usually think about that kind of stuff. But and one step further is, as we were meeting with Bloomer and we were talking about deferred comp, and I turned to my wife, who would like to retire someday soon, and she's been almost 40 years in law enforcement, and I asked her, so how much are you putting into deferred comp, because I didn't know, and she goes, I've never put in deferred comp. And it's like, oh, how does that happen? And I imagine how it happened was because it came up once during our 36-year marriage, and we decided we can't afford to put in deferred comp, so we're not going to, and shoot ourselves in the foot at the same time, and she never did. So it's never too late to start. If my wife and I, with me being retired and her wanting to retire soon, with all of her years in, and we still have to sit down with Bloomer and make a budget and a plan and figure out what we got to do. And we've got a meeting with an attorney to do a trust, and all that came from Bloomer and his suggestions. And so it's you've got to meet with somebody. You got to talk about it now. If you've got 5 years on, if you've got 35 years on, you need to have a plan before you go.
So I think to carve out some time when a new recruit is first hired after the academy, back at the municipality or the sheriff's office, and open his or her eyes. Sometimes these young people, it's one of their first jobs, or they're making today, I think, really good money. That new car is very appealing, but can we catch them before they sign papers on that new car for the 8-year loan and say, listen, here's some highlights going into this. We know you're making good money. Just be mindful of making your purchases so quickly, and have the kind of a hard conversation. You should think about looking into, the deferred comp, the life insurance. And I think it's like anything else with policemen or police officers. The more times you hear it, the more apt you are to maybe check it out or investigate it or commit to it. So repetitiously, if you hear something more and more, you're going to say there might be something to this. And you might seek out Bloomer after the third or fourth time. You hear his name, you hear about his firm, or you hear about how this person sitting next to me maybe they got their $1 million a little quicker than the next guy or gal. So I just think you have to keep hearing that and beating that drum. And is there some mechanism we put in place at, the 5-year mark, check in with a police officer and say, where are you at with this? I don't need details, but have you done anything? Do you, now you have a young child, you've been here 5 years. Just keep that in the forefront. I think really like what I've heard from Bloomer and of course from Greg and you, Tami. It just kind of everything resonates, and I've done an okay job with it over the last 30 years, but I absolutely could have and could do better as I sit here today.
Well, and Todd, to just kind of piggyback on that, I think what you're going to do, what you're going to find is a lot of them, either they don't want to hear it or they're not going to hear it. And you may have to, hit them over the head with a stick. But if you're out there and if you're listening to this and somebody comes to you and talks to you in your career about deferred comp or how are you doing with your finances, please listen to them. I know it's hard to hear. I know you want to go out and buy that shiny new truck or car, but you got to listen to somebody that knows what they're talking about and that can help you prepare for the future. And the future is going to come faster than you can even imagine. So don't wait on it. Do it now. And you can't use the excuse, well, I don't have enough money. I live paycheck to paycheck. I don't have enough money to put into deferred comp. There's something you can put into deferred comp. If you have to, like Bloomer said, or one of you said, cut down to, one coffee a week instead of 7 coffees a week, might be an opportunity to put some money into deferred comp or to start saving or investing.
And what I've done over the years is I see our financial person maybe once every couple of years, might not be enough. I'm not sure. But the other thing I've done over the years is I have a CPA that figures my taxes. I see her, of course, at least once a year. But if I have a low-level question that I wonder how it's going to impact me financially, I'll give her a call or send her an email, and I get a certain amount of advice out of her. It doesn't cost me anything. I've paid her my $100 for the taxes anyways. So I've got some valuable advice from her. And not that she's a substitute for any financial person, but I just think that's kind of a sweet spot there. Check with the CPA. Here's what I'm thinking about doing. How is it going to impact me? So if we get into that deferred comp, she might know better where that threshold is. Well, if you do $200, you'd be better off based on historical information that I have in your taxes, Todd. So it's kind of a small takeaway there. And again, I don't see or talk to the CPA often, once or twice a year, a couple emails, but just enough. She knows who I am and answers questions without charge, and I trust her advice.
And I think it's really important too for the department command, as a chief, you're recognizing, okay, hey, one, for you personally, there's some areas where you could improve, but then also your leadership, I know you enough now that you're going to go implement it, like, hey, we need to have some classes, we need to remind you. And like Greg said, repetition is key. So in sales and marketing, if you get emails from people, you'll notice you'll get at least 7 every time. You can start paying attention, at least 7 marketing emails. If they're doing a training or they're selling a product, you're going to get a minimum of 7 emails, because psychologically it takes about 7 times of repetition before you were like, oh, I should probably do this. And it's not that people aren't interested. Some people, I have the best intention for sometimes, like, I want this, I'm interested, or, oh, I want to register for this, but life happens. We get distracted, we get a phone call and we forget. And so it's okay also to have that follow-up. I think for department leaders, if you're listening to this conversation, check in with your department. What's the awareness? Have you brought in a financial advisor of some sort? When are they getting the information? When are they getting the information? Now you need to repeat. Every 3 to 5 years, have somebody come in. And then again, I'm going to keep hitting the instructors with this. Keep it simple. Keep it simple. So simple. Break it down. Make it colorful. Really easy, especially because Chris and I, we run a business. He's retired, so he does not get insurance. Arizona does. That's a whole nother soapbox tangent. We need to do a whole nother. I'm gonna add that to the list of things. I just broke my pen. If you retire from law enforcement, good luck. I don't know, it's different in every state, but a lot of times you retire, you spend 20 plus years of your career, and then you get buckus for insurance. You have to pay out $1,200 to $2,000 a month. It doesn't really cover everything. And you learn the insurance world real quick. And I can just say, I'm pretty damn intelligent, and sitting down with insurance people, I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't even know where to begin. So it can get very overwhelming, very frustrating. So it's important to find those good people that will break it down. Ask the questions, get clear. And if somebody's not explaining it to you in a way that you actually comprehend and get, find somebody else that can do it. Bloomer, back to you.
Yeah, I'll jump in for sure on there, and I want to touch on both those because when you started out, Tami, you started talking about having, the chiefs and people make sure we have people. I get a ton of pushback in the law enforcement world when I want to just come in and teach pension and 457. So I don't want to talk about my firm. I don't want to talk about business. I just want to come in and teach pension and 457, right? That's why I got into this. That's how I got interested. So I get a ton of pushback. Now, it's funny to see the difference in PD and fire. If I walk into a fire station, they're like, come on in. Yes, please help my people. But I think they've been in the wellness space a lot longer than we have in the PD side. So what I found is I attach to the wellness groups. And through the wellness groups, I can give advice. When people come to them, they will say, hey, I got a guy, right? But what I'd love to do in these agencies is like, let me come in and teach at the academies. There is no business end for me to that, right? These are brand new guys with zero money. I'm just trying to help, right? And I get a lot of pushback. And so Ken on one of your other podcasts mentioned how frustrated he was with that. And I am constantly trying to get in front of departments to teach, and I'm getting rejected. Like, well, I don't know, because you're with the firm, and I don't know the legal side of it. But it's funny, you go talk to fire, and they're like, "Yes, please come help us." So I found a really good success. So what I would say now is go to your wellness units to look for financial help, because most of them will have someone. And then that leads us into the second thing about having a guy, right? I want a guy. So what I've done is align myself with a good estate planning attorney, a good health insurance person, all these things that I found as I sat down with my, not just police, but all my retirees that they need. And I vetted these people, I trust them. And so at least that's a starting place. So I like to be able to say, hey, I know that you're going to need all these things, and here's all the people that you can talk to. And of course, find your own and talk to them. But I vetted these people, and so I think it's great when you can find someone, whether that's a wellness unit or a good advisor or a good chief, or a good coach that can say, oh, I got a guy, right? That's what we want, is I got a guy. So, and as long as you trust that guy, you can probably assume that he has trustworthy people that he's aligned himself with.
And
That
on,
sounds,
Todd, yeah.
that sounds awfully familiar. As far as the duty driven, kind of the checklist at the end of the duty driven workshop is on that checklist. There's some things you need to have in place, and you need to have them in place where you can trust somebody. So if you do your homework ahead of time, it's like Bloomer is saying, have that guy or gal for that, and you're so much further ahead.
Well, and especially in the law enforcement. So yes, Bloomer, you are so right. Fire, no offense, well, some offense to the law enforcement community. But fire, it's night and day. They are light years ahead when it comes to wellness. They are light years ahead of being open and receptive. And sorry, might be controversial. I might ruffle some feathers here, but look at the community and society. Everybody loves fire. Cops are getting hated on. It's not fair to you. There's a lot of narratives that have gone out and slaps against the face, but the culture that we all are talking about, the culture. I understand fire and cops and oil and vinegar and all of this stuff, but maybe take a page out of their playbook, because fire is doing something right. But within law enforcement, the other issue is trust. That is huge. First, notorious cops do not trust people. You can't. Totally understand that. We get that. You have to have your guard up. You have to be, and you guys have great bullshit detectors. We all have great bullshit detectors. And there are, unfortunately, not just in the wellness space, not in finances, in just life in general, there are people that are full of shit. And they're selling stuff, and they're really good at sales, they're really good at marketing, and they're really good at making money, but they don't necessarily have the follow through. The thing with law enforcement, if you trust yourself and you know that you're good at what you do, you will see through it. One of the quickest ways to see a bullshit salesperson is if they talk really fast, they don't let you talk, and they have their whole script, here's the price point. And then they do the scarcity. Well, we only have today to get it done, or we have other people lining up. There's your indicator that that's probably not legit. If it's somebody in this space, especially the people that are trying to help law enforcement, conversation, ask the questions. If you have a reputable company, somebody that knows what they're doing and they're in it for the right reasons, they will sit down, they will slow down the sale. I will say, yes, all of these companies, Bloomer, he's going to sell you something. We are selling you a product. It's not because we're disingenuous. It's not because we're, whatever. We have lives to live. We all have to make money, right? So it's okay to charge for services, and it's okay for you guys to invest in services if you're getting the quality, if that makes sense. So don't be turned off like, oh, you're just selling me something. That's a mindset shift. Let's unpack that. Let's talk about sales and stuff. So Todd, I'm gonna pick on you because I'm guessing as chief, you probably get a lot of sales pitches.
I do some cold calls, which is probably the most frustrating thing. But I guess the key to getting to me directly the first time is to say it's a retired chief or lieutenant or captain, and it's a good icebreaker, right? So I have more of a tendency to give my time. Now I'll get all these calls. People say, I'm retired. So it's kind of a vetting process right there in my own mind. If you retired out of an organization at a certain level, or even an officer, of course, just there's already some immediate standing. But yeah, so and I've got one right now. It's my third email that's come in. I've been talking to the person saying, I'm going to get back to you on my timetable. But so I was thinking of that a moment ago. I have 3 out of 7, right? I know it's there. So probably by the 4th or 5th email, I really need to give this guy some time and see where he's at and all the weigh the costs and benefits too. So yeah, so it's really resonating. It's yeah, definitely.
Well, and the referrals in this, going back to what Bloomer was saying, the referrals are huge because it's vetted trust. Say, hey, this guy, because when you are looking for insurance or financial advisors or coaches or therapists or whatever, Greg knows it can be a really shitty process.
Yeah.
You might not find somebody that you resonate. They're not going to be what you want. I've done that. I've done that so many times. I tried to hire a podcast video editor, failed repeatedly. It took me 4 web guys before I found one that's actually good. Cost me a lot of money, a lot of time, a lot of like, I paid for a website. And this was my personal, not the business, but I paid for a website, custom created it, loved it. I had hired somebody through Fiverr. It got infected with malware. Poof, disappeared from the face of the earth. No getting it back. Gone. So I've learned a lot of really expensive lessons. So when you have somebody that's like, hey, I have somebody that actually is legit, go feel that out. I know we're kind of going away from the money mindset, but all of this stuff plays into it. You got to get yourself set up for success financially, energetically, lifestyleistic.
And the vetting process, like I said, if it's a retired officer, that does have some standing. And not that a retired officer can't be unscrupulous, for example, but I think there's already that built-in layer there, that acknowledgement, and do that. Maybe not a deep dive, but see what LinkedIn looks like. Do a quick Google search. Is this guy or gal all over the internet, or are they the real deal, or are there some marginal reviews? And just like you said, have that awareness, that ever presence, that your sixth sense that we all have. And a lot of you that are listening, or you have that built-in sixth sense as well, and you know when to say when. And maybe this is my salesperson, my third email. Maybe it's not. I'll let you know in 4 more emails.
So I can't speak to statistics in the wellness, but I'm sure it would reflect the same. In the financial advising world, it's not a crazy number, but it's 3 to 5% that you'll do 3 to 5% better in your finances if you speak with a coach, right? And so when people think about, oh, someone's selling me something, or, well, I guess it depends on what you're buying. But in this case, if it's advice, and depending on what that is, look at the statistics, look it up. Is it worth it for me to have someone help me with my retirement planning? Is it worth it to have someone help me with my mental health? Well, yeah, because I'm not an expert in mental health. So if I needed that, I would look out. It's like if I'm into fitness, but if I wanted to take my fitness to the next level, I would hire a coach, because I know I can't perform at that very high level with my own information or my own motivation. And so if I want to perform my finances high, if I want my mental health high, I'm going to hire someone outside to help me do that. And I'm going to be okay with spending money on that because guess what? I'm probably spending way too much money on monsters and coffee, and I don't think twice about that. So
Well, I love how the natural conversations always bring the title of the episode organically now. And I've kind of tuned into it, but you just said it. Is it worth it? And that, is it worth it? Is it worth to invest in a financial advisor? Is it worth it to invest in a personal trainer? For me, for my house, I am a mom. I have multiple animals. We just rescued a bulldog, which is a new addition. And if you've ever had a bulldog, shit moves around this house a lot now. Um, and I am running a business. I'm busy. I'm busy all the time. Plus, I prioritize my self-care. And so for me, my house was a mess. And people are like, oh, can you really have it all? I'm like, yeah, but your house is going to be messy. And I'm not OCD, so I'm not going around cleaning. I'm tired. And so for me, I'm like, it's going to cost me money to hire a housekeeper. Reframe. Is it worth it? Yes, it's going to bring me peace of mind. It takes something off of my plate. I come home to a clean house. I don't have to worry about that. And I have help. Is it worth it? Absolutely. The money that I pay for that service brings value to my life. I talk a lot about value, and that's a big part of the money mindset is where are you placing your value? And so is it worth it? Just that's a simple takeaway for this. When you're going to go purchase whatever it is. And sometimes, we're talking about taking away the coffees. And I laugh because I went and paid for my really expensive coffee today. But
Anyways,
I asked myself, oh yeah, Todd, you're the coffee guy too. But I asked myself, is it worth it? Is it going to bring me, it's Friday. I have a stacked day. Obviously, if you're listening, I'm fighting a cold. And so I need the little extra oomph. I'm like, today, yes, it's worth it. Tomorrow, no, I'm not going to spend that money, right? Todd, what were you going to say?
no, I'm just going to circle back. I don't know what our time frame is here. Kind of a two-part question, I think, Tammy, then Greg, you can answer best, one of the two of you. So as far as law enforcement coaching, do you see a lot of young officers, or I guess, do you see a large percentage of young officers who have an interest in talking about money and talking about saving? And is that stimulated because maybe they've had issues with money? Maybe it's a three-part question, but I'm just wondering that, again, only you would know that intimate knowledge, obviously no names or specifics, but you're probably seeing a fair amount of coaching over finances or what can I do differently or better or saving?
So for the younger generation, one of the cool things about our team is that you have access to everybody. So somebody in the academy can be coached by a former chief. That's kind of a big deal. And so listening, they're already, and not just the chief, everybody on the team. We have seasoned professionals that have lived experience. And so they are listening. If they're reaching out in this capacity, they're interested. It's not just a class and they're listening to a PowerPoint because they have to be there. They are interested. I think we live in a society where because of social media, because of news, and because the cost of living, you have to pay attention to finances. You have to. And the new generation, I feel like kind of the older generation, especially in law enforcement, discredits them. This whole millennial, Gen X, blah, blah, blah. The younger generation is a different breed. They are cued into different things and they have a different way of looking and approaching life. So they are interested in learning how they can set themselves up. They are money savvy. They're business savvy. They know that they could do a career in law enforcement, but they could also be on social media. And there's been several cops that have done this. They're making a killing on social media. So they know that money isn't just a 9 to 5 paycheck. There's other options for them. So they do take it serious. They do like to listen to, with our coaches at least, they listen to that guidance. I hope that the audience that's listening to this will share this out and say, hey, if nothing else, deferred comp, wherever you're at. I'm gonna cough. So Greg, you take it.
Well, and in my experience, I haven't had the opportunity to coach any young guys yet, but the ones that I have coached have been nearer to retirement, and I'll be the first to admit when I was on the job or getting ready to retire, just after I retired, I would have thought, I'm not going to talk to a coach. I don't need a coach. But I had that same feeling about our employee, what is it called, employee support,
Mhm.
the wellness groups, and I had the same feeling about them. I'm not going to talk to anybody. I don't need to talk to anybody. But once I found myself in that dark place, I ended up talking to people, and coaching has really helped. Tammy's still coaching me today, and it's if for no other reason, it's nice to be able to run things by her and talk about different avenues, and have her help me reframe, especially about finances. We've done a lot of coaching on finances, and it has worked and will continue to work. So I really do appreciate that. But coaching is for everybody, and like Bloomer said, if you're into physical fitness, you're not going to be able to do it alone. You're going to need to have a higher level coach, and coaching's for everybody. And I think it is something that is not used enough, and hopefully that will change.
Well, and even after our podcast last week with Monty, he's a different company. He does his business coaching. We had our conversation, and then Greg witnessed it. So I coach all the time. I'm constantly coaching. I'm coaching myself. I'm learning a constant knowledge. Like, how can I be better? How can I do better? And it's very rare that people ask me questions that spin me where I'm like, ah. And so Monty, we ended up just in an organic conversation, and naturally he went into coach mode for me, and Greg got to witness it, and I was laughing. I'm like, oh, you get to see me be in the hot seat. But he asked, and you don't have to know more or different. It's just asking questions. Like, I already know the answers to these things, but having somebody else ask those questions and being able to verbalize and just talk through it, you start being, just even in this conversation, we are all learning something. We're all sitting there being like, oh, I thought of it this, it actually makes sense this way. And we're all going to take something away from this, right? So just talking and having those conversations, Bloomer, like you said too, just having the conversations, like, that helps so much.
And Tammy, real quick, I got to just say that I can't even begin to tell you the number of times that I've probably told Tammy, oh, I never thought of it like that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's because I just didn't think of it like that. And whether she's smarter or better, or whatever the case may be, I don't care. She's seeing it from a different perspective. And when she poses that question to me, it really helps push you in the right direction. And with Bloomer, I think meeting with him the other day, again, a shout out to him. He opened a lot of different directions for Brenda and I, and it's things that it's like, I don't know why we wouldn't. I don't know why we hadn't, and it really just helps broaden your perspective a little bit and give you more options.
I'd echo that. I got a lot out of just this interaction of what Bloomer put out there. So I think it's a win in my book. I'll share some of this with my wife. I'll go home tonight and say, this is what I learned, and some things I already knew, but of which Bloomer reinforced. So that's as important as anything, just having that reinforcement that, Todd, yes, my thought processes are spot on.
Yeah. And sometimes it's just confirmation of that you are on the right path. You're doing the right thing. You're already doing all these things. And some people might be listening, be like, yeah, I'm in deferred comp. I have my pension. I have my 401k. I have my savings. I have it all. And awesome. Friggin' thank you. Good job for you. Now go teach others to do that too. Because
yeah, don't keep it for yourself. I found that so much in my career. I've run across those guys, Tammy, exactly like that. They've got it squared away. And I sit back in awe saying, you're like 15 years younger than me, and you're already 20 years ahead of me in the financial space. And it's like, how do you do it? Well, I just save here or there. It's like they don't share that information. My gosh, share how you did it and get it out there, and open some eyes and help people out.
Yeah.
And do they not walk around with $6 coffees, just asking for a friend? Probably not.
One a week. I think we got that, one a week, right? That's our new.
Starting today.
So awesome. I want to honor everybody's time. So in true fashion, I'd like to go around, and if somebody just tunes in to the last part of this conversation, what is your quick takeaway advice that you would give to the audience? Whoever wants to start.
I'll go. Do something with purpose. I don't care if you're 20 years on. I don't care if you're 5 years on. I don't care if you're brand new in the academy. Do something with purpose for your financial future. If you're pushing to the end of your career, it's not too late. Figure something out. You look at my wife and I, and with my wife being almost 40 years in law enforcement, it cutting it close, but it's not too late. And Bloomer was able to help us realize that and figure out what we needed to do next, which was a big help. But do something with purpose. Talk to somebody. Talk to a financial guy. Just do something with purpose. And deferred comp is a great opportunity to just get it in there. Just open it up, get it in there, start paying something in there, and then try to, every time you get a bump in pay, try to up it what you're paying into deferred comp.
Mine would be pay close attention to your financial surroundings. What am I spending?
Yeah.
What am I saving? What can I afford to spend? What can I afford to save? It's pretty short and sweet, but that would be my brief emphasis.
Awesome.
Yeah, and one thing I think you'll find in all these conversations is someone saying, I had a good sergeant, I had a good lieutenant, I had a good officer. So what I would say is find someone that's a mentor for you in the world of finances, whether that's a financial advisor or just that really savvy. We can get kind of backwards. Some guys think they're really savvy and it causes more problems, I found, but we're good bullshit detectors, so figure it out, right? So find someone that you can bounce stuff off of and that you can talk out the budget, that you can be intentional with your 457. So just have somebody to talk to and help them at least point you in the right direction or bounce ideas off of. So have a good coach, have a good friend, have a good mentor.
Yeah. And I would echo that. I think it's okay to lean into somebody else. You don't have to have all the answers. You don't have to, it's okay. And even if you do have a lot of the answers, if you are somebody that has a lot of the answers, it's fun. It's intellectually stimulating. Like this, it's great conversation. It's an engaging conversation because it's like, oh, we all get it. We can talk the same language. And then again, like we were just talking about, you see it from a different perspective, or I didn't know you could do that. So things are shifting so rapidly with the advancement of AI. Everything's shifting. And so it's really important to keep those conversations going, and be humble, learn some new tools to add into your tool belt. So with all of that said, I want to thank you guys for being here. For the audience tuning in, again, we have a method to our madness with these episodes. So every month we have a different topic. Next month is going to be retirement realities. And there's a reason that we did money mindset before the retirement realities, because if you don't listen to anything that we're saying, you might definitely want to tune into the retirement realities, because it's not going to be as great as it could be if you are paying attention to everything that we're talking about in these conversations. So thank you all for being here, and until next week.
Thank you.